Hello and welcome back to episode 2. What does being yourself mean to you? My name is Joshua Wang. I go to Collingwood High School and I'm in year 12, but you guys already know that. I don't want to delay this episode too much, so I'll kind of get started soon. But as I kind of talk about every single other episode, I'm making this series for you to think about. Think about the stuff I say and incorporate the things that you like into your own life. Because as we find out later in this episode, or maybe in future episodes, we all have different lives. We all have different ideas of what we want to do. So it's kind of building your own truth, as we learn about later. So don't take everything in this series as kind of like a step-by-step procedure. Kind of take this moment to think about the stuff that you really resonate with and use them in your own life. But as we get started with the second episode, I'm going to kind of link episode 1 and episode 2 with an analogy. I want you to imagine a really large field, a massive field full of grass as far as I can see. No trees or anything, just grass as far as I can see. And in the middle of this huge expanse of grass, there's a little flock of sheep all huddled up together. Now the reason why the sheep are so tightly packed together is because of fear and legend from generation to generations speak of a shepherd that watches over the group in secret, that if one of the sheep leave the huddle, that they'll be severely punished. Problem being, there never was a shepherd. You see, the problem here is not only that the sheep are scared of this shepherd, but because they're also scared of being left out of the group. They see the grass on the other side of the field, it looks delicious and way better than the stuff they're eating, but they're scared. Now this story might seem a little weird, admittedly so, but it's kind of a reflection on society. We follow these things that everyone else does because we're scared of doing it alone. Even if we know it's wrong. Even if we know it's fake. Even if we know that it won't help us in the end. Like the legend of the shepherd. How do you expect to grow if you only eat the grass in the same area? How do you expect to grow if you only try the things that everyone else does and never venture off to try the new things in life? The grass on the other side of the field. The ones that everyone else is scared to try. That's what it means to be yourself. It's moving out of this circle that everyone kind of follows, and it's knowing that you can improve, you can grow, and also starting to love yourself a little more. And as we kind of end off this first section, see what happens when you stop following others. Being yourself is changing and growing. I'll kind of start this section with another little story of mine. Now, in year 8, I got contact lenses. Ever since year 5, I had always worn glasses, and for the first time, I was really scared. I had this idea that people or the friends around me had this picture of myself with this guy who had glasses all the time. And that if I took them off, I would be this completely different person. Other people wouldn't recognize me. And I had all these kind of thoughts going around and fear going around in my head. Even in software or IST once, I remember Ryan telling me that, why don't you just take them off? And I still remember the morning, I forgot what day it was, but I went to see a dentist, and that morning, I finally decided I had had enough, and I took those glasses off. The lesson is, being yourself is not limiting yourself to who you are now. If you go back to year 8 and you told me to be yourself, I would still have all those fears of what other people thought of me and still have those glasses on. The point is, we need to take off those glasses that everyone else tells us to put on. We need to see life with our own eyes. Because, as it turns out, taking off your glasses or trying to grasp in that new part of the field isn't as scary as you think. In fact, if you really think about it, it takes only one action. It's when you realize that the things you need to improve yourself aren't as hard as they seem in the first place. Like with the glasses scenario, all I had to do was take them off. If you want to have a good sleep schedule, do a few searches online and just set up an alarm on your phone. If you want to, for example, get over social media, delete the app with one click. Or if you want to stop watching that YouTube video, just press Ctrl W. It's things like these productivity things, like making a schedule, making a study routine, or even exercising. These things are all a set of steps. You don't have to be special or this perfect person in order to do them. It's just the people who find these steps, put in the work to actually do them, that see the results in the end. And to kind of add on to this idea that you don't have to be a perfect person to do these things, people recently have been thinking that I'm kind of smart or something. But the truth is, I only got my first A in mathematics in the first year 11 advanced test, which was on certs. The point is, you were never limited by age, gender, or who you were to be good at studying or anything. It's just people who put in the work to find these set of steps and do them that will get them in the end. And obviously, these things just don't happen in a click. Everything starts small, everything goes through a lot of process, trial and repetition, a lot of pain, but if you don't start, nothing will change. It is improving your life through these productive activities that you may realize that these problems and issues that you have in life don't have to stay that way. For example, I remember when I first started out studying, maybe like seriously doing it at the end of year 10, I was doing a whole lot of Anki cards right before the business exam. And I kind of forgot all. Everyone starts from somewhere. But as you keep on going along this road, yes, things are going to be easy. But if you just sit there and do nothing, nothing will change. It's because being yourself is not following the road everyone else takes. It's having the courage to go your own way. To go on a road less taken. One where you're meant to be. Now, as we talk about more in episode 5, caring about things or getting good at things in life kind of splits into two camps. Things you can actually improve or things you can control, and things you can't. The internal and the external. Things you can't control, things like the news, what happens around the world, or how your friends will act today, or whether the bus will show up on time today. The point is that there are things we can control in life. These are the things we can improve. It's identifying what things we can improve on, what things we can't really control. And it is improving the things we can control that we realize life doesn't have to be as bad as you think it is. It's realizing that your life isn't full of issues. In fact, if you actually look back and take the time, you realize that you've done a lot of cool stuff. You've done a lot of hard things. You've changed and you've grown. The point is that routines, scheduling, exercise, health, all these things can be improved, and you just got to do it and remind yourself that you've done hard things before. Now, of course, on this channel, we won't be talking about these things because you can really search them up online, and because we're mainly going to be talking about life. And as always, as I'll say in every single video, it takes time. I cannot stress this to you enough. 1.5 years I've seen a lot of change. In fact, I remember I used to write tasks down on a sticky note. Now I'm using an app called To-Do List. It's this continuing evolution of growing and changing. You never stop, and you don't want to stop because there's always something new you can grow on. So don't be stressed or think that it's all over, because when you look back, the journey was truly something really amazing. And on to the bulk of today's episode, what is your purpose? Now, purpose has a lot of kind of definitions all around everywhere, whatever. But what I think personally purpose is your genuine reason for doing something. Asking, as we say later in the episode, why you do something, or what does ... mean to you? So ask yourself, why ... Like, for example, why do I go on social media? Is it because I'm genuinely there for the friends, or am I running away from the other things I want to do in life and just distracting myself? It's in asking these questions like why ... or what does ... mean to you? When you ask these questions, as we talk about it might seem a little weird, it's talking to you. We have these kind of voices in our head, and I know it sounds weird, but we have these parts in our head that talk to us, right? Maybe it's the part of us that wants to fit in with other people, right? For example, when you do those university quizzes and you might not really find a career you like, it's kind of because subconsciously you're thinking about, maybe subconsciously thinking about the money, whatever, what other people how other people might look at me, for example, if I'm doing this job, or etc, etc, etc. When you ask these questions, when you find your purpose, you are not kind of asking these other voices in your head, you are asking yourself what you genuinely feel about something. And it is finding your purpose that has a lot of benefit, as we talk later on. Because, as we talk about later in the episode, asking these questions of why you do something, or what does this mean to you, sets the foundation for literally anything. It's why we burn out for studying. We don't really have a purpose for doing it. Why should we do it? We burn out. When you find a purpose, a foundation, you can build everything on top. But if you don't have a purpose for doing something, it gets kind of wobbly down there. So, obviously, finding your purpose, asking these questions are good, but as we'll talk about later in the episode, you can't just sit there and say, yeah, I found my purpose now. You have to act on it. It's in overcoming these fears. For example, maybe you're scared of getting on social media and you find your purpose, that you really are just kind of running away from things in your life. You have to face your fears and you have to act on them. That is the point of purpose. It's not sitting there and staying still, because if you do that, nothing will change. And that's part of the reason why I'm not on social media. It's reminding yourself through your purpose why you've changed, why you're not going on social media anymore, why you've lost those friends that you don't want to be with anymore, why you're starting to make a routine, why you're doing these scheduling, and why you're growing. When you remind yourself of these things, you keep that fire of purpose going, and in all honesty, you kind of prevent burnout because you have a reason for doing something that is true and genuine to your heart. And as we get onto the power of purpose, it's understanding that you can never really be truly consistent throughout your entire life. Life does its job of messing things up, and things will change around. You can't truly hope to always be consistent every single time, which is why we need a purpose to constantly pull us back when we're down low, when we've gone and hit a low point. Purpose pulls us back up and reminds us why we do something, prevents burnout, and keeps the foundation of our building stable. Remember, this purpose must be yours only, as we talk about right after this. The voices in your head has to be yours and your genuine thoughts only. Otherwise, that foundation isn't going to look very steady. Now, we're on to the voices in our head section. Now, I'm not trying to make some new scientific discovery here. This is just based off my own personal observation, but I'll kind of get into it a little here. Kind of understanding is that we have our genuine voice here, and it's kind of like an onion, right? We kind of wrap this around with, okay, this is what we like, but what does society want us to do as well? Or maybe what do our friends want us to do? Kind of trying to find your purpose and your real voice in order to create a really good purpose is peeling back the onion. Instead of listening to what all your friends want, maybe stop going on social media, stop chatting them for a bit, and you peel back that onion. And then you go to the next layer, and then maybe it's like, for example, what does society want, right? And I feel like with that, it's just completely getting rid of social media for me. And then I could genuinely listen to myself every day. I didn't have anyone I was talking to, so I was just kind of listening to myself, getting bored, and then I could find my genuine purpose. I wasn't going and being like, okay, what does society want, and then making a purpose of that. I was finding what I genuinely wanted by removing that layer of the onion skin and saying, okay, we don't need that anymore. We're going to find our genuine purpose here. Now, genuine purpose is obviously different across everyone, so don't feel pressured to obviously join in with someone else's purpose. It is our own, so maybe you should go find your own as well. And that leads me on to my next question, which is never stop questioning. Maybe whenever you join a new friend group or you do something new, you might kind of avoid that question. Why do I do it? And you might be like, oh, we'll do it later. Or I don't want to face that right now. It's easy to run away from these things in life. And of course, you always have time to change. But what that results in is something later on that we call regret. And I know for a fact that every one of you watching this does not like regret. So always keep on asking yourself these questions. Never stop trying to hide these things away and be like, oh, I want to do it later. Because if you don't ask yourself what your genuine purpose is for doing something, you're probably going to regret it later. And as I've said before, removing social media is the point. Episode 1 is kind of setting that up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe personally, in my experience, that none of the things that you'll learn in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 can be done with social media. But that's just my experience. So obviously everyone is different. But I feel like the biggest part of removing social media is understanding that you need to start listening to yourself. It's easy to get distracted by what other people say, what other people do, but at the end of the day, in order to find your genuine purpose, you have to listen to yourself. And that kind of leads me on to the next point, which is that never ever feel like you need a purpose for something when there is none. For example, I remember at the start of last year, I was really trying to get into studying, right? I was like forcing myself to get studying. And now this year, I got pretty good marks for term 1. And I remember one of my friends coming next to me like, why do you look so sad with your marks, right? And it's kind of true. I had this idea that, I was kind of hiding my purpose below. I was like, oh, studying is going to be everything, right? And when I got those marks back term 1, and I got pretty good, and I looked at it and I was like, what was I actually doing? I was just trying to hide it from myself. Although I don't really have a career I want to do, I didn't really want to spend the rest of year 12 just studying. I wanted to make this video series for you guys. And I realized that at that point when I got those marks back that this wasn't the path I wanted to go on anymore. Don't try and force yourself to have a purpose in everything, even if you don't have one. Because in the end, that's going to lead to regret as well, and that's a pretty shaky purpose you're doing. The whole point of purpose is to differentiate between what you need in life, what you genuinely want in life, and what doesn't really matter. That is the whole point of purpose. Don't try and put a purpose and force yourself into doing something that you genuinely, purposely don't have one. Don't do those things. It is a pretty bad mistake. But as always, everyone is different. You gotta go find your purpose in life. And as we move on to the next part of the video, which is about how being yourself is loving who you are now, it's realizing and noticing that we can celebrate these little wins in life. Maybe this morning you woke up on time, or you were really focused in the morning for a study session, or you even just went outside for a little walk. But you're probably like, wait, I didn't even do any of these things today. But the thing is, you have done them. You have done them before in the past. Maybe during at school in the library you had a really nice study session, or during a school term you woke up on time. The thing is, we have done these things before. You can look at the negatives and say, oh, this is horrible, but wouldn't it be better if you just saw your life in this good light? Because you have done these hard things before. You have changed, you have grown. And by recognizing those things, you realize that these hard things, these harder, impossible things in life, they aren't that hard to do because you've already done some of these things before. They aren't impossible, you just gotta do it. And as we talk about more in episode 7, loving who you are now is also loving who you were before. It's looking at how far you've come. Maybe if you take a look at maybe today, yesterday, you can't really see that much improvement and you're probably just hating on yourself. But maybe over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months, half a year, and a year, you'll see that you've probably grown a lot as well. Remember, it takes time to improve. It doesn't happen in a click. So don't kind of drive yourself over with these kind of things that maybe you aren't that good, or over the course of these 2 days, or today maybe that you weren't so good. But that if you take it as a macro scale, if you look at the bigger picture, it is very obvious that you've grown quite a lot. And I feel like part of loving who you are now is also loving who you were before. When I was still on social media and I would get the rare chance of looking back on old photos, I would kind of look at distaste. I would be like, this guy is so cringe, like this weird photo of myself, and I would kind of avoid it. And I feel like that's such a big problem with social media. We strive for these things that are unattainable, and in a sense, we kind of forget who we are in the process. When I got off social media, I realized that all these old photos, however cringe or like weird this kid was, it was me. It's something that social media can't give you. A life to genuinely look back on. your life. And as we jump onto this next section about how happiness is all around you, it's in the things that you already have in life, not the things that you don't have. Your room, your desk, and that one room you probably haven't been to in a while. It's in the things you already have in life, not the things you don't. That is where you find happiness in. Because at the end of the day, before you go explore all the fancy things in life, all the cool things that are happening around the world, maybe just dialing it down a bit, going quiet and just what they call being in the moment. I think that is where happiness lies, personally for me. But of course, what it is for you, you'll have to find out. But if you never try it, if you never get on social media, you might never know. Worst things social media can do to you is realize that life isn't a comparison. We're always comparing something with another. This person's life, this person's, oh wow, this person's life looks so great. Life is not a comparison at the end. You look back on your life and you'll realize that it was about the things you had. Other people have their lives, their things, their happiness. It doesn't have to affect you. In fact, it shouldn't. Because when you remove social media, when you stop comparing yourself with others, you realize that what you have in life is enough. Other people might have a bigger house. Other people may have more memories. But what you have is something what no one else will ever have. And you get to enjoy that. That's the greatest part. And that's why you should get rid of social media. Obviously, in my experience, but if you never try it, you'll never know. And I'll say it again, it's in removing social media. It's in finding these little things in life. I mean, look how excited bro was excited over some oranges. I take a selfie every 4 days, just of anything in my house. I briefly look back over old stuff. Maybe I'll go into that room I haven't been to in a while. It's in realizing and reminding yourself that these little things in life remind yourself of the past, of who you were before, and how far you've come as a result. It's in realizing that you don't have to go for these big things in life because you kind of miss the big picture. You can go for these big goals and complex things in life, but if you don't even appreciate the small things in life, then those big goals are going to feel quite empty. So, as I said before, try just doing a selfie right now. Every 4 days, remind yourself. Just go into that room you haven't been to in a while, or just take a photo of literally anything. Make a video to yourself. Because trust me, when you look back, pretty nice. Pretty nice. And now we're on to improving/planning. This is kind of what I do personally, and I hope I could share with you. But it's kind of getting big mind map. Writing the things you want to do. For example, improve your sleep, improve your study, maybe going to the gym, maybe it's uni or careers. It's writing them down and identifying which one is the most important to you right now. Because, for example, I'll take this example really quickly. University and, for example, gym. You can do the gym anytime. But the university kind of career thing is very important because it's only here this year. This gym, you can do it after HSC. But if you do a gym this year, if you focus on gym this year, and for example, you leave your studies behind, you might regret later on that you didn't pick this. Part of writing all these things down is finding what is most important to you right now to reduce regret later. Because we have so many things we want to do in life, an infinite list, but we only have so much time. And then it's in identifying what is actually important to you right now and what can be left to gym. Like, for example, gym can be left to be done later. And I think it's pretty simple. It's just getting a big mind map, writing the things you want to write down. Maybe you want to do this year or even later. And it is choosing one of them, just going for it. Don't choose two things or more. Never, ever multitask. Multitasking is one of the genuinely worst things you could do. And I can't explain it right here. But I remember at the end of year 10, I kind of did that with studying and I think it was like skincare or something. But when you split yourself, imagine this is like bar of focus. 100%. You focus on one thing, okay? For example, you want to get 90 on a maths test. If you focus 100% on it, you might get 90 or above. If you cut that to 50-50, for example, you want to do maybe, you want to get 90 in maths still, but you also want to get, for example, maybe you want to get a new piano in the gym or something, right? Now, what you understand here is that you're split half-half. Now, it's not particularly accurate, but you're not really going to get 90 you might get 45 or 50 in math because you've split your focus in half. You're switching between these two things that really don't match. You're trying to find which one is most important to do right now. You're like, this, keep on switching your focus. Focus is a bar. It's something that continually builds up over time. The more you do something over time, the better you get at it. But if you continually switch between these two things, it's going to have to go back up and start again, go back up and start again. You never really get the full benefit of focusing on something when you multitask. So getting that multitasking thing out of the way here, it is choosing one thing and going for it. Don't tempt yourself into doing two things or more. I highly regret it. Multitasking is not a really good thing. So choose one important thing and do it. Because, as it might turn out, you have a lot of time in the rest of your life to do whatever you want after HSC. So don't stress too much, pick one thing, go for it. And now we're on to don't be afraid of commitment. Don't be afraid of committing to something you genuinely believe in for a very long amount of time. If you care about something, for example, you really, really like going to the gym, and it's not just like a hobby or something, there's nothing wrong with commitment. In fact, the people who say like, you have no life, you spend every day studying, maybe they'll realize that committing to something that you genuinely believe in is something a hell of a lot greater than just sitting there scrolling on your phone and not committing to anything. The point being is that you have to commit to something. You have to commit to something over a very long amount of time to get better at it. And when you do these things at the end, you'll be rewarded. People who sit there and don't commit to anything, they don't really grow or change. So don't be afraid of committing to anything. If people say like, you have no life or whatever, well, obviously only you understand your life. No one else does. So take this commitment thing as a kind of guide that, yes, you can commit to things over a very long amount of time. That's the point of life. We want to do these things and we want to get better at the things we genuinely believe in if you genuinely care about it. Don't commit to something you genuinely don't believe in. So that is kind of my little spiel there. But as I said before, it's your life. Go find what you want to commit to off the mind map and just go for it. Don't be scared, man. And as we jump into this final section, it's about understanding that the more you do something, the better you get at it. Choose wisely what things you want to do more. Is it YouTube? Is it going on social media? Because the more you do them, maybe the more you procrastinate during the term. But if you do, for example, more focused deep sessions, more of removing your distractions, removing social media, if you do more of those things, then you might be less distracted during a term or you might be more focused. It is about understanding or choosing what you want to do or what you want to do more of so you can get better at it. That is the understanding there. And the opposite is true. The more you focus, the more you study, the less times you'll be distracted or go on social media. So everyone is different at the end of the day. So don't latch onto what other people say or what other people do. Choose what you want to do based on that mind map and just do more of it, because the more you do of it, the better you'll get at it. Of course, habits are something that we won't talk about on this video series. Productivity, I won't talk about on this video series because you can search it up online. But it's things like habits. For example, just read Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a banger. So habits kind of go along the same line. The more you do something, the better you'll get at it. The more times you do a habit, the better you'll get at it. And the converse is true, where the opposite habit will get worse. So doing these things are still very much up to you and what you find important. So at the end of the day, it's your life, and find what is the most important thing to do right now and what you want to get better at to, for example, get better in the future. And as we finish this video off, I'd like to leave you with the question that is the title of this video. What does being yourself mean to you? Is it just accepting who you are right now and not changing? Is it going on social media and following what everyone else does instead of your own? Or is it to go your own way? One less taken, where you can find what you want to do. Of course, this question is all up to you. It's your purpose and it's your life after all. And I'll go back to the analogy I used at the start of the episode, but you can never truly know whether something is good or bad for you if you never try it. It's like the sheep in the little huddle there. Only the sheep that leave the huddle, who are scared to break away from what everyone else does, truly know what the grass tastes like outside of this boring little circle. you can't really sit there and just assume things aren't going to work for you, because at the end of the day, if you never try it, you'll never know. Which is why I encourage you to get rid of social media and do these things. You can't expect to sit there your entire life and say, this works for me and this doesn't, if you never actually do it. So, what does being yourself mean to you?